Hello, Yanis, and welcome to the show.
Hello, Jeremy.
Hello, it's great to have you on. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on this afternoon. So, the first thing I'd like to ask you is how did you get where you are today?
Okay, so I'm originally from Cyprus. I studied in a private school. I was schooling English and I did the English curriculum. So I knew from high school that I was going to go to the UK to study. So after high school, I had to spend 2 years in the army. And then I wanted to study mathematics when I finished high school. But I finished high school just when the system changed, and then they created the A stars and then double A level. So I couldn't do a maths course, and I started doing some research in the army to find some degree related to mathematics. It was then that I talked to an actuary, and he was a life actuary actually, and he explained to me what he was doing, the career progress that an actuary could have. And actually, I was fascinated. He also showed me the Actuary magazine, which I'm currently the editor, and I thought that's a great profession, and maybe I should give it a try. So I started looking for degrees in the UK that involve mathematics with actuarial science, and I ended up going to the University of Southampton because they offered me a full scholarship for all the years, where I graduated with first class honors. Um, I was thinking what to do after my bachelor degree. I had an offer from a company which I was doing an internship after my third year to remain full time. But finally, I decided to go back to education. So I did a master's in actuarial management. In the masters, I already did the general insurance courses, so it was quite sure for me that I was going to follow a general insurance path after education. So after my masters, which I finished with distinction again, I was looking for a job. At the moment, I was doing an internship in London with a multinational insurer, and at the moment, it was very competitive landing a job in the UK, even with a great record in education. So I ended up going to Dubai. I spent 2.5 years with my first employer. I was already working in general insurance. Then I started contracting as well. I did a couple of contracts in in the UAE and the UK, and then I returned back to my country, Cyprus, where I was working between Greece and Cyprus in a head of pricing position. After that, I returned back to contracting, where I worked again in the UK and in Switzerland. And now I'm working for an Italian employer. Yeah, so pretty much this is how I ended up on an actuarial path, and I was always focused on the NGI side of work.
Oh, that's brilliant. So, how did you become editor of the Actuary magazine?
Okay, uh, I contributed articles, mm, I think 1 or 2 years before I joined the editorial team as a features editor. And two of them were successful. And then the magazine opened a features editor position for general insurance and data science, where I applied. So I held the role of features editors for a couple of years. And then the editor role opened after my predecessor stepped down. And she encouraged me actually to apply for the position. I did the interviews and I managed to get the role.
That's brilliant. And I think you've also authored an R library, is that right?
Yes, so at my free time, not only I try to do continuous learning and studying, but I try to do R&D as well because I believe this is another way of learning. And my findings and in terms of code, I try to publish them in a library where I also publish them as Shiny apps, where it's easier for end users to use them. And the reason I do that, like the magazine, is because I believe it's a way to contribute back to the profession. And and the society. Because I appreciate a lot our qualification, I believe it secures for us jobs and prestige among the industry.
And what's the name of your R libraries?
It's net CMR, it's case sensitive, but I mean, if one wants to find it, they can just Google search it.
Yeah, we'll pop a link to it in
Yeah.
the description as well. That's brilliant, Yanis. So, what would you say is your mission for general insurance pricing?
Okay. As you just said, I'm an expert in pricing for general lines. I didn't work so much in reserving other than trying to do portfolio monitoring, and the focus is trying to do that without triangles. The mission delivering state of the art professional pricing to my employers or clients. Then I always try to utilize the latest technologies, the transition from GLM to boosting and potentially neural networks. Yes, so I believe in the use of technology for improving pricing, making it in a more granular level, and distinguishing profitable versus non-profitable segments for the employer, optimizing and delivering value to the shareholders.
What do you think pricing teams and leaders need to be doing more of?
So investing in technology and investing in their people, because teams have skillful employees. They are very good in what they do, but they always need to be upskilled to the use of the latest technologies. So, in terms of focusing maybe 190% to business as usual, they could invest more resources and time of the people to upskill them, and the benefits will come later when the newer technologies will be utilized. This is easier for employers where they have a team of 50, 60 people and they can afford to have classes and training. But I mean, if the employer has a team of five, then it's challenged to keep up with the business as usual rather than spend time to upskill the people.
It is, that's true. Although often the smaller teams are often the ones that are pushing most and trying to do the newer and more interesting things. So, to some extent, they're the ones that need to be doing more, but certainly appreciate there is always the time pressure as well.
Yeah,
And it seems like no matter how many more people we add, we always have more work to do than there are people.
yeah.
And Yanis, what would you say is your vision for the future of general insurance pricing?
Okay, vision for the future. There in the future there will be more data. We have AI and sensors and information from satellites, from electric cars, and everything. So this will be feeding back to our databases, and then it's a challenge to manage and utilize the larger amount of data. Maybe blind spot markets will become more competitive as well. The what we just said maybe is more relevant for a developed industry like the UK one, but East Europe or the Middle East, where the market sophistication
Mm.
lags a bit behind, maybe we'll first take the steps to go to the UK level and then utilize the additional information that can come from the sensors. The other thing is utilizing the newest methods. It's fascinating how many people talk about the new methods and actually how many companies really implement the new methods. So for the future, I believe that more and more these methods are being will be used in practice in the industry. And then the other thing I see is stakeholders within the organization will appreciate more and more the value of the pricing and data scientist teams, and what they could potentially do to add more value to the organization is utilize the skills to other operations. For example, help the claims team set reserves, the first estimates, identify fraud, prioritize the work of the fraud department, and prioritize call center going back to increase conversions. So blend more our skills and metrics to other business areas within our employers to add more value to the stakeholders.
Yeah, I think it's quite a sensible model to start doing the data science in kind of the pricing area where there's already people with those skills. And then maybe perhaps as it grows, separating it out wider into the rest of the business. But there are lots of areas we could be doing more on.
Yes.
I You mentioned you're working in it. What are the particular challenges of that market?
Uh, of that every market is different because of regulation, because of the habits of people, the challenges in that market. So it's a market not so sophisticated like the UK. Most competitors are operating in the offline business with brokers, where it's more to do with relationship with your broker. While the UK is fully competitive and mostly on aggregators, I believe in terms of the market achieving a higher price sophistication in general, not within some specific insurer, uh, we'll have to do until the people adapt to the online system, like what
Yeah.
happened to the UK. And at that moment, all the insurance companies, I mean, will have to improve on their pricing and increase the skill set of their pricing and underwriting team. Yeah, so this is how I see the market. And pretty much outside markets like the US, the UK, maybe Germany and France, mostly this is the case for Middle East as well. Markets are more relying on the broker relationship, and it's less
Yeah.
about being pricing competitive. And this makes our job in those employers different because we need to optimize based on this way that the distribution channels are made, and not how we want the data science and the fancy mathematics to work.
Yeah, moving with what the business needs.
Yes.
I I worked on Quixar, the Italian AXA brand, in 2015, and it was interesting because the it was aggregator sold, and it was fairly new in Italy at the time. So we had the most price sensitive customers were the ones actually going and looking on the aggregators anyway. So it's almost an additional self selection for really fighting for that cheapest price. And in fact, we had a very high number of people would negotiate at renewal, and they had no loyalty. I mean, we think it's low loyalty in the UK, but there was pretty much zero loyalty to the insurer at all. And it was interesting contrast because the intermediary business, the agent business in Italy was so much larger, and that has a very high level of loyalty. So it's like we were only sucking away those customers that would just chop and change
Yeah.
immediately. And in fact, France was similar, but I believe the aggregators in France have taken off faster. So there's more direct business being sold there, but it's still predominantly an agent led business, the opposite of the UK.
Yeah. Myself, I always perceive the French industry more similar to the UK due to the kind of severity of the bodily injuries, because it's from the European markets, as far as I'm aware, it's France and the UK that could have claims up to, I don't know, 40 million, 50 million, while other industries, not industries, sorry, markets like East Europe are like much more limited in terms of severity, even Germany as well.
Yeah, that's right, where they've got more of a set. almost menu
Yeah.
of payments rather than the UK where it's extremely open.
Yes.
Brilliant, Yanis. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, Jeremy, thank you for inviting me. It was a pleasure, as always, to talk with you.
Brilliant. Thanks ever so much for being on. You have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye bye.